The urgent message flashes across the United Earth government's emergency broadcast system. Human male needed to save alien race through intimate contact. Staff Sergeant Will Reyes stares at the screen, his heart pounding as he realizes he's been chosen for this unprecedented mission. Alarms blare throughout the military complex as officials scramble to respond to the distress call from the Daxamite homeworld. The all-female alien species faces imminent extinction without an infusion of new genetic material. Earth's leaders gather in a secure bunker, tension thick in the air as they debate the implications of this galactic crisis. After hours of heated discussion, a decision is reached. Operation Genesis is greenlit. Its objective? Send one human male to provide the genetic diversity needed to save an entire civilization. The weight of this responsibility falls squarely on Will Reyes's broad shoulders. Reyes sits through countless briefings, his mind reeling as he absorbs information on Daxamite biology and social customs. Holographic displays showcase the alien female's striking features: iridescent skin, luminous eyes, and graceful forms that blend strength with otherworldly beauty. Your primary mission is procreation, a stern-faced general explains. You'll be expected to mate with numerous Daxamites to maximize genetic variation. Reyes nods, steeling himself for the monumental task ahead. He understands the stakes: an alien race's survival and a chance for humanity to gain a powerful cosmic ally. As he prepares to depart, Reyes meets his liaison. Faye, a Daxamite diplomat, approaches with fluid grace. Her penetrating gaze sizes him up. "The fate of my people rests with you," Faye states, her melodic voice tinged with urgency. "Without successful reproduction between our species, Daxamite civilization will collapse within a generation." She leans closer, lowering her voice. "Be warned, rival factions may try to sabotage this mission. The balance of power in our sector hangs in the balance." Reyes absorbs her words, feeling the weight of galaxies on his shoulders. He boards the sleek interstellar transport, a custom vessel designed for the sensitive nature of his assignment. As the engines roar to life, doubts creep into his mind. Can he truly satisfy an entire planet's needs? What personal and diplomatic fallout might his actions cause? The ship breaks through Earth's atmosphere, streaking towards a distant world where Reyes faces the daunting task of single-handedly ensuring an alien race's survival through the most intimate means possible. As stars blur past the viewport, he takes a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges that lie ahead in this unprecedented mission of galactic importance. As the transport ship hurtled through the vast expanse of space, Reyes found himself lost in thought, his mind replaying the whirlwind of events that had led him to this moment. The gentle hum of the engines and the soft glow of the instrument panels surrounded him, a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotions churning within. His reverie was abruptly shattered by a sudden lurch of the ship. Alarms blared, and red warning lights flashed across the control panel. Faye's melodic voice, now sharp with urgency, cut through the chaos. "We're under attack! Suliban's scout ship on our tail!" Reyes's military training kicked in instantly. He leapt to the weapons console, fingers flying over the controls as he assessed the situation. The pursuing vessel, sleek and predatory, unleashed a barrage of energy weapons that rocked their transport. "Evasive maneuvers!" Reyes shouted, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Faye complied, her hands gracefully guiding the ship into a series of tight spirals and loops. The nebula loomed ahead, a vast cloud of swirling gases and cosmic dust. Reyes saw their chance. "Head for the nebula, we can use it for cover." As they plunged into the Technicolor maelstrom, visibility dropped to near zero. Reyes relied on the ship's sensors, firing precise bursts at their pursuer whenever it came into range. The Suliban ship was relentless, matching their every move. A lucky shot from the enemy vessel struck their engines, sending them into a wild spin. Faye fought with the controls, her iridescent skin glistening with exertion as she struggled to stabilize the ship. "We've lost propulsion," she reported, her voice tense but controlled. "We need to find a place to land and make repairs." Scanning the nearby systems, Reyes spotted a small, uninhabited planet. "There," he pointed. "It's our best shot." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the ship shuddered and groaned under the strain. Faye's expert piloting brought them down in a clearing amidst dense, alien foliage. The landing was rough, but they were intact. Stepping out of the ship, Reyes immediately noticed the thin, acrid air. He took shallow breaths, his military-trained lungs adapting quickly. The landscape was a riot of colors and strange shapes, with vegetation unlike anything he'd seen on Earth. Faye emerged behind him, her luminous eyes scanning their surroundings warily. "The atmosphere is barely breathable," she noted. "We must work quickly to repair the ship." As they assessed the damage, Faye explained the Suliban's likely motives. "They fear the alliance our mission could create," she said, her voice low. "My people's biotechnology in their hands would be catastrophic." Working side by side, Reyes and Faye began the arduous task of repairing their vessel. The harsh conditions forced them to rely on each other, breaking down the initial barriers between them. As they worked, they shared stories of their respective worlds. Reyes found himself captivated by Faye's tales of Daxamite culture, their advanced sciences, and the desperate situation that had led to this mission. In turn, he regaled her with stories of Earth's diverse ecosystems and the resilience of its people. Their growing connection was undeniable, yet both remained acutely aware of the gravity of their mission. The fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance, leaving no room for personal indulgence. As they neared completion of the repairs, Reyes made an intriguing discovery. The planet's unique magnetic field had been masking their presence from long-range scanners. It explained why the Sulibans hadn't found them, but also meant they couldn't call for help. "We'll have to leave soon," Faye said, her eyes meeting Reyes. "Once we break atmosphere, we'll be exposed again." Before departing, they gathered samples of the planet's unusual flora. The plants exhibited properties that could potentially revolutionize both human and Daxamite medical research, adding another layer of importance to their already crucial mission. As they prepared for liftoff, the weight of their task settled heavily upon them. The repaired ship hummed to life, its systems glowing with renewed energy. Reyes took one last look at the alien landscape that had been their temporary sanctuary. "Ready?" he asked, turning to Faye. She nodded, her expression a mix of tenacity and apprehension. "Let's finish what we started." The ship rose smoothly, piercing through the planet's atmosphere. As the stars came into view, both Reyes and Faye knew that the most challenging part of their journey lay ahead. Somewhere out there, the Sulibans were waiting, and the success of Operation Genesis hung by a thread. With a shared glance of understanding, they set course for the Daxamite homeworld, their ship cutting a path through the star-studded void, carrying with it the hopes of two civilizations. The ship emerged from hyperspace, the swirling vortex of light giving way to the serene beauty of the Daxamite homeworld. Reyes and Faye exchanged a glance, their shared experiences during the journey having forged a bond between them. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the comm system crackled to life. "Incoming vessel, this is Daxamite Control. You are cleared for landing at the central spaceport. Welcome home, Diplomat Faye, and greetings to our esteemed guest from Earth." The ship touched down on a gleaming landing pad, its surface seeming to ripple and adjust to perfectly cradle their vessel. Reyes took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. As the hatch opened, Reyes was immediately struck by the planet's ethereal beauty. The air shimmered with an otherworldly quality, and the vegetation surrounding the spaceport pulsed with vibrant alien life. A group of Daxamites approached, their graceful movements captivating Reyes's attention. At their head was a tall, regal figure, whose presence commanded respect. "Staff Sergeant Will Reyes," the leader spoke, her voice melodious yet authoritative. "I am High Counselor Zara. On behalf of all Daxamites, I welcome you to our world." Reyes nodded, his military training kicking in as he stood at attention. "Thank you, High Counselor. I'm honored to be here." Zara's gaze was intense, seeming to look through him rather than at him. "The fate of our people rests with you, Sergeant. We are grateful for your willingness to undertake this unprecedented mission." As they moved from the landing pad, Reyes couldn't help but marvel at his surroundings. The spaceport seamlessly blended into the landscape, its structures looking more grown than built. Vehicles that seem more like living creatures than machines glided silently past. Our biotechnology is the cornerstone of our civilization, Zara explained, noticing Reyes's wonder. We have learned to shape life itself to serve our needs. Their transport, a sleek, organic-looking craft, responded to Zara's mere thought, whisking them towards the heart of the Daxamite capital. As they traveled, Reyes observed the city around them. Buildings spiraled upwards in impossible shapes, their surfaces shimmering with what appeared to be living bioluminescence. The Grand Citadel, Zara announced as they approached a massive structure that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. The seat of our government and the center of our most advanced research. Inside the Citadel, Reyes was introduced to Dr. Lyra, the lead geneticist for Operation Genesis. Her eyes gleamed with scientific curiosity as she regarded him. "Sergeant Reyes, your arrival couldn't be more timely," Dr. Lyra said, leading him to a laboratory filled with equipment that looked more organic than mechanical. "Our latest projections show our species becoming completely infertile within 2 generations without intervention." As Reyes underwent a battery of tests, Dr. Lyra explained the intricacies of Daxamite biology. "Our reproductive cycle is complex," she said, manipulating a holographic display of Daxamite DNA. "Your genetic material offers us hope for a viable future." Suddenly, an alarm blared through the Citadel. Red bioluminescent patterns raced across the walls, pulsing in time with the alarm. "Intruder alert!" a voice echoed through the facility. "Suliban infiltration team detected in the lower levels." Zara's face hardened. "They've breached our defenses. Sergeant Reyes, your combat experience could be invaluable. Will you assist us?" Without hesitation, Reyes nodded. "Of course. What do you need me to do?" Within moments, Reyes found himself encased in Daxamite bioarmor, a living second skin that enhanced his strength and reflexes. Faye appeared at his side, her own armor gleaming. "Stay close," she said, her eyes meeting his. "We fight as one." They descended into the lower levels of the Citadel, joining a squad of Daxamite warriors. The corridors twisted and shifted, the very structure of the building seeming to aid in their defense. The first wave of Suliban attackers caught them by surprise, their cloaking technology giving them a momentary advantage. Reyes reacted instinctively, his Earth combat training complementing the Daxamite's more fluid fighting style. As they pushed deeper into the Citadel, Reyes noticed the Suliban's tactics. They weren't just attacking indiscriminately. They were targeting him specifically. "They're after me," he shouted to Faye over the din of battle. "They know about Operation Genesis." Faye's eyes widened in understanding. "We can't let them succeed. The future of my people depends on you, Will." A sudden explosion separated them from the main Daxamite force. Reyes and Faye found themselves alone, navigating the twisting bioorganic architecture of the Citadel's depths. "This way," Faye said, her hand grasping his. "I know a shortcut back to the upper levels." As they moved through the living corridors, fighting off Suliban pursuers, Reyes felt a growing connection to Faye, her grace in battle, her unwavering tenacity. He admired her more with each passing moment. They emerged into a vast chamber, the heart of the Citadel's genetic research facilities. But they weren't alone. A group of Suliban commandos had beaten them there, already beginning to sabotage the delicate equipment. "Stop them!" Faye cried out, launching herself into battle. Reyes followed, his bioarmor responding to his every move as if it were a part of him. Together they fought with a synchronicity that surprised them both, as if they could anticipate each other's actions. The skirmish was intense but brief. As the last Suliban fell, Reyes and Faye stood amid the wreckage of the lab, breathing heavily. High Counselor Zara arrived with reinforcements, surveying the damage with a grim expression. "The attack has been repelled," she announced, "but at a great cost. Our research has been set back significantly." She turned to Reyes, her eyes filled with urgency. "Sergeant, we must accelerate our plans. The timeline for Operation Genesis has been moved up. We need to begin immediately." Reyes nodded, the weight of his responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. He glanced at Faye, seeing a mix of emotions in her eyes, concern, hope, and something else he couldn't quite define. As they left the damaged lab, Reyes knew that the true challenge of his mission was just beginning. The fate of an entire species now rested in his hands, and the path ahead was fraught with both danger and unprecedented intimacy. Possibilities. The genetic future of an entire species now rested on his shoulders. Reyes followed Dr. Lyra through a series of winding bioorganic corridors, each pulsing with an otherworldly glow. They arrived at a heavily secured section of the Citadel, where armored Daxamite guards stood at attention. "Welcome to the heart of Operation Genesis," Dr. Lyra said, her voice a mix of professional detachment and hardly restrained excitement. The doors parted, revealing a chamber unlike anything Reyes had ever seen. At its center stood a large translucent pod that seemed to breathe and shift of its own accord. "This is the genetic integration chamber," Dr. Lyra explained, gesturing towards the pod. "It's designed to optimize the extraction and integration of your genetic material with our own." Reyes approached the chamber cautiously, his hand hovering near its surface. To his surprise, the pod responded to his proximity, its outer membrane rippling slightly. "It's more alive?" he asked, unable to hide his astonishment. Dr. Lyra nodded. "In a sense, yes. Our biotechnology is far more advanced than anything you've encountered on Earth. This chamber will adapt to your physiology, creating the ideal environment for genetic transfer." High Counselor Zara entered the room, her presence immediately commanding attention. "Sergeant Reyes, I'm afraid we must accelerate our timeline. The Suliban attack has made our situation even more precarious." She gestured to a group of Daxamite women who had entered behind her. "These volunteers have been carefully selected for their genetic diversity and reproductive health. They will be the first to receive your genetic material." Reyes swallowed hard, the reality of his mission suddenly feeling very immediate. "I understand," he said, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. As Dr. Lyra began explaining the procedure, Faye entered the room. Her eyes met Reyes, and he felt a surge of emotion he couldn't quite name. "I volunteer to be the first participant," Faye announced, her voice firm. Dr. Lyra's brow furrowed. "Diplomat Faye, your status makes you an unsuitable candidate for the initial trials. We cannot risk—" "I agree with Faye," High Counselor Zara interrupted, her gaze moving between Reyes and Faye. "The bond they've formed may prove beneficial to the process." Reyes watched as Faye approached the chamber, her movements graceful yet determined. He stepped forward to join her, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. As they entered the pod together, Reyes felt the chamber come to life around them. The interior shifted, creating a cocoon-like space that pulsed with soft, bioluminescent light. "Are you ready?" Faye asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reyes nodded, words failing him as the chamber initiated the genetic transfer process. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a fusion of physical and mental connection that transcended mere intimacy. Time seemed to stretch and compress within the chamber. Reyes felt as if he were simultaneously losing himself and becoming more whole. Through it all, Faye's presence anchored him, their shared experience forging a bond deeper than he could have imagined. When the process finally ended, Reyes emerged from the chamber feeling both exhilarated and drained. Dr. Lyra rushed forward, her instrument scanning them both. "Remarkable," she murmured, eyes wide as she analyzed the data. "The genetic transfer was far more successful than we anticipated. Faye, your body is already showing signs of increased fertility." Over the next few days, Reyes participated in several more sessions with different Daxamite women. Each encounter was unique, offering glimpses into various facets of Daxamite society and individual personalities. One participant, a scientist named Vela, engaged Reyes in a deep discussion about Earth's ecosystems. Another, a soldier called Mira, shared stories of Daxamite military history. Each session left Reyes with a growing appreciation for the complexity and richness of Daxamite culture. Despite these connections, Reyes found his thoughts continually returning to Faye. Their bond, forged through shared danger, and now deepened by their experience in the integration chamber, felt increasingly significant. As the sessions continued, Dr. Lyra made a startling discovery. The combination of human and Daxamite DNA is yielding unexpected benefits, she announced during a briefing with High Counselor Zara. We're seeing enhanced disease resistance and improved cellular regeneration in the genetic samples. Zara's eyes widened. This could revolutionize our entire species. As word of Operation Genesis's success spread, Reyes began to notice changes in himself. His strength increased, wounds healed faster, and he developed a strange connection to the Daxamite biotechnology around him. During a routine checkup, Dr. Lyra confirmed his suspicions. Your exposure to our biology and the integration chamber is altering your own genetic structure, she explained, her voice a mix of scientific fascination and concern. Before Reyes could fully process this information, alarms blared throughout the Citadel. General Astra's voice echoed through the facility. Suliban ships detected in orbit. All personnel to battle stations. Reyes rushed to the command center, where he found Faye coordinating with the Daxamite military. As screens displayed the approaching Suliban fleet, Reyes knew that the fight to save the Daxamite species was far from finished. The next phase of their struggle was about to begin, and he was now irrevocably part of it. The command center buzzed with activity as Reyes and Faye assessed the Suliban threat. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data, painting a grim picture of the invading forces. We need to buy time, Reyes said, his eyes scanning the tactical readouts. General Astra, can we deploy our planetary defense grid? Before the general could respond, Dr. Lyra burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. High Counselor, I have urgent news. Zara turned, her brow furrowed. What is it, Doctor? The females who participated in genetic integration with Sergeant Reyes, they're fertile, truly fertile. We've confirmed natural conception in several cases. A hush fell over the command center. Faye's eyes widened, her hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen. Zara's voice cut through the silence. This changes everything. Summon the council immediately. As the High Counselor left to convene the emergency session, Reyes felt a mixture of awe and trepidation. The weight of his role in shaping the future of an entire species pressed down on him. In the vast bioorganic council chamber, tensions ran high. Elder Nyx, her weathered face contorted with anger, stood at the center of the room. This is an abomination, she cried, her voice echoing off the living walls. We cannot allow our genetic purity to be tainted by human DNA. Younger council members shouted back, their voices a cacophony of hope and fear. It's our only chance for survival. We must embrace this new path. High Counselor Zara raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent. We stand at a crossroads, she began, her voice steady. The success of Operation Genesis offers us hope, but it also brings great change. We must... Her words were cut short by a piercing alarm. General Astra's voice boomed through the facility. Suliban fleet entering orbit. All personnel to battle stations. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Reyes sprinted towards the hangar, his mind racing. As he ran, he felt a strange sensation. His body seemed to move with inhuman speed and grace, a side effect of his exposure to Daxamite biology. In the hangar, he found a squadron of Daxamite fighters waiting. The ships, sleek and organic, pulsed with an inner light. Reyes climbed into the lead fighter, surprised to find the controls responding to his thoughts. Talon Squadron, form up on me, he commanded, launching into the star-filled sky. The space above Daxam was a maelstrom of energy weapons and explosions. Suliban ships swarmed like insects, their cloaking technology making them difficult to track. Reyes pushed his enhanced reflexes to the limit, weaving through the chaos. Use attack pattern Delta, he ordered his squadron. Their cloaking can't hide their ion trails. The Daxamite fighters moved as one, executing a series of intricate maneuvers that caught the Suliban off guard. Reyes felt a surge of pride as his human tactics combined seamlessly with Daxamite technology. On the planet's surface, Faye led a team to secure the genetic integration chamber. The facility's bioorganic walls pulsed with an angry red as alarms blared. Seal all entrances, Faye shouted, her diplomatic calm giving way to battlefield authority. We cannot let them near the embryos. As if responding to her words, the chamber itself began to change. Tendrils of living material stretched across vulnerabilities, forming an impenetrable barrier. Dr. Lyra worked furiously at a console, her eyes wide with discovery. The hybrid embryos? They're generating some kind of bioelectric field. It's interfering with Suliban tech. Faye's mind raced. Can we amplify it? Use it as a weapon? Before Dr. Lyra could answer, the building shook with a massive explosion. Suliban ground forces had breached the outer defenses. In orbit, Reyes and his squadron had gained the upper hand against the Suliban fighters. But as he watched another wave of enemy ships emerge from hyperspace, he knew they were fighting a losing battle. His communicator crackled to life with Dr. Lyra's voice. Sergeant Reyes, we need you back at the integration chamber immediately. We have a plan, but it's risky. Reyes didn't hesitate. On my way. Talon Squadron, continue defensive maneuvers. He pushed his fighter into a steep dive, plummeting through the atmosphere in a streak of fire. As he approached the citadel, he saw the signs of ground combat, pockets of resistance fighting against Suliban shock troops. Landing hard on a nearby platform, Reyes leapt from his fighter. He fought his way through the corridors, his enhanced strength and speed making him a blur of motion. Suliban soldiers fell before him, their weapons useless against his fury. He burst into the integration chamber, finding Faye, Dr. Lyra, and High Counselor Zara huddled around the central pod. What's the plan? He asked, breathing heavily. Dr. Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. We can use the chamber to amplify the bioelectric field from the embryos. It could disable the entire Suliban fleet. But what? Reyes pressed. We need you to act as a conduit, Faye said softly. Your unique genetic structure is the key, but the strain on your body, it could kill you. Reyes looked at the pod, then at Faye. In her eyes, he saw a future, not just for the Daxamite people, but for them. A future that might never come to pass if he didn't act. Do it, he said, stepping towards the chamber. As alarms blared and the sounds of battle drew closer, Reyes entered the pod. The organic material enveloped him, and he felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. Dr. Lyra's fingers flew over the controls. Initiating pulse in 3, 2, 1. A blinding light filled the chamber, and Reyes screamed as raw power coursed through his body. The world around him faded away, consumed by pure energy. In orbit, Suliban ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. On the ground, their weapons fell silent. As the light faded, Reyes collapsed, his body smoking, and changed. Faye rushed to his side, cradling his head. Will, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered open, now glowing with an otherworldly light. Did it work? High Counselor Zara nodded, her voice filled with awe. Yes, Sergeant, you've saved us all. As Reyes slipped into unconsciousness, the last thing he saw was Faye's face, tears streaming down her cheeks. The battle was won, but he knew that his journey, and that of both their species, was a long way to go. From over. The battle had been won, but a new chapter in the saga of human-Daxamite relations was just beginning to unfold. Reyes drifted in and out of consciousness for days, his body racked with pain as it adjusted to the massive energy surge he had channeled. When he finally opened his eyes, he found Faye sitting beside his bed, her face etched with worry and relief. Welcome back, she said softly, taking his hand in hers. Reyes tried to speak, but his voice came out as a rasp. Faye quickly offered him water, supporting his head as he drank. How long was I out? He managed to ask. Nearly 2 weeks, Faye replied. Dr. Lyra wasn't sure you'd survive the procedure. As if summoned by her name, Dr. Lyra entered the room, her eyes widening as she saw Reyes awake. Sergeant, you continue to defy expectations, she said, quickly moving to his bedside and activating a series of bioorganic sensors. Reyes watched in fascination as the living technology pulsed and shifted, responding to his presence. He could sense its rhythms in a way he never had before. Your genetic structure has stabilized, Dr. Lyra explained, studying the readouts. You've retained your human core, but you've integrated several Daxamite traits. Your healing rate is off the charts, and your strength... She trailed off, shaking her head in wonder. Over the next few days, Reyes regained his strength at an astonishing rate. He found himself able to interface with Daxamite technology on an intuitive level, and his physical abilities far surpassed his previous limits. As Reyes recovered, the Daxamite society around him underwent its own rapid transformation. High Counselor Zara called for an expansion of Operation Genesis, a move that was met with both enthusiasm and resistance. Reyes attended a council meeting where the debate reached a fevered pitch. Elder Nix, her face twisted with disgust, stood before the assembly. "We cannot allow this contamination to continue," she shouted, her words echoing through the chamber. "Our genetic purity is our strength." Zara remained calm in the face of Nix's outburst. "Our survival is our strength," she countered, "and Operation Genesis has given us a path to ensure that survival." The council chamber erupted into chaos, with members shouting their support or opposition. Reyes watched as Faye deftly moved through the crowd, speaking quietly to key members, her diplomatic skills on full display. In the days that followed, Zara's supporters won out. The expansion of Operation Genesis was approved, and Faye was appointed as the official ambassador to Earth. "We need more human volunteers," Zara explained to Reyes and Faye in a private meeting. "Your success has proven the viability of our approach, but we need to broaden our genetic base." Faye nodded, her expression serious. "I'll do everything I can to convince Earth's governments of the mutual benefits of this program." As Faye prepared for her diplomatic mission, Reyes found himself drawn into military matters. General Astra requested his presence at a strategy session, where he was introduced to a room full of Daxamite officers. "Sergeant Reyes," Astra began, "your unique perspective and abilities make you invaluable to our defense efforts. I'd like you to work with us to integrate human tactical knowledge with our biotechnology." Reyes spent the next weeks diving deep into Daxamite military systems, marveling at the fusion of organic and technological elements. He worked closely with Daxamite engineers, helping to develop new bioorganic weapons and defense systems that combine the best of both species' approaches. During a test of a new fighter prototype, Reyes received an urgent communication from Dr. Lyra. "Sergeant, you need to see this," she said, her voice tinged with excitement and a hint of apprehension. Reyes arrived at the research facility to find Dr. Lyra standing before a row of pulsating, translucent pods. Inside each, a small form floated in a nutrient-rich fluid. "The first generation of human Daxamite hybrids," Dr. Lyra explained, her eyes fixed on the nearest pod. "They're developing at an unprecedented rate. Look at this one. It's already displaying neural activity consistent with a 6-month-old Daxamite fetus, but it's only been gestating for 3 weeks." Reyes stared at the tiny beings, a mix of awe and unease washing over him. "What does this mean for their future? For ours?" Before Dr. Lyra could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Security officers rushed into the room, their weapons at the ready. "We have a situation," one of them reported. "There's been an attack on a genetic research outpost in the southern hemisphere. Early reports suggest it was carried out by Daxamites." Reyes's mind raced. "Daxamites? But who would—" His question was cut short as High Counselor Zara's voice came over the facility's communication system. "Attention all personnel. We have confirmation of a coordinated series of attacks on genetic research facilities across the planet. All security forces are to report to their designated response stations immediately." As chaos erupted around him, Reyes caught sight of Faye rushing into the room, her face grim. "Will," she said, her voice tight with urgency, "we need to talk. Now." Reyes nodded, following her to a secure communication room. As the door sealed behind them, Faye activated a holographic display showing a map of Daxam, red points flashing at various locations. "It's worse than they're letting on," Faye said, her fingers dancing over the controls. "These attacks are too well coordinated to be random acts of violence. We're dealing with an organized opposition." Reyes studied the map, his enhanced mind quickly analyzing the patterns. "They're targeting key facilities related to Operation Genesis," he realized. "This is about more than just opposing the program. They're trying to cripple it." Faye nodded grimly. "High Counselor Zara agrees. She's initiating a plan to create a joint human Daxamite task force to protect the program and investigate these attacks, and she wants us to lead it." Reyes met Faye's gaze, seeing the mixture of purpose and concern in her eyes. He knew that accepting this role would plunge them both into danger, but he also understood the stakes. The future of both their species hung in the balance. "When do we start?" he asked, his grit hardening. Faye's expression softened for a moment, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Immediately," she said, reaching out to squeeze his hand. "Our first mission is to investigate the attack on the southern outpost. We leave in an hour." As they prepared for their mission, Reyes couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The attacks, the rapid development of the hybrid children, the shifting political landscape, it all pointed to a future that was as uncertain as it was fraught with peril. But as he looked at Faye, her presence a steadying force amid the chaos, Reyes felt a surge of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Not just as comrades or friends, but as something more, something that transcended the boundaries between their species. The future of human-Daxamite relations was about to be tested in ways they could scarcely imagine, and Reyes knew that the choices they made in the coming days would shape the destiny of both their peoples for generations to come. As Reyes and Faye prepared for their mission to the southern outpost, an urgent transmission from High Counselor Zara interrupted their preparations. "Change of plans." Zara's holographic image flickered to life in the command center. "We've received critical intelligence about an imminent attack on the central hybrid nursery. This takes priority." Reyes and Faye exchanged glances, both recognizing the gravity of the situation. "What do we know?" Reyes asked, his mind already shifting into tactical mode. "Our intelligence, largely gathered by Faye's efforts, indicates that Vex and his Suliban sympathizers are planning to strike at the heart of Operation Genesis," Zara explained. "We can't allow them to harm the hybrid children or compromise our research." Reyes nodded, his enhanced mind rapidly formulating a strategy. "We'll need a multi-pronged approach. I propose we split our task force into 3 teams." Over the next hour, Reyes outlined his plan. He would lead the primary assault team, while Faye would command a stealth unit tasked with infiltrating the enemy's command center. General Astra, joining via hologram, agreed to coordinate air support from the Daxamite military. As they geared up, Reyes took a moment to check his bioorganic armor, marveling at how it pulsed and shifted in response to his thoughts. He caught Faye's eye as she holstered a sleek, Daxamite-designed sidearm. "Be careful out there," he said softly. Faye gave him a determined nod. "You too. See you on the other side." The operation began under the cover of darkness. Reyes's team approached the hidden base's entrance, their movements silent and coordinated. As they neared the perimeter, sensor-dampening fields courtesy of Daxamite technology kept them undetected. Suddenly alarms blared. They'd been spotted. "So much for the element of surprise," Reyes muttered. "Team, engage!" The night erupted into chaos. Energy weapons flashed, illuminating the battlefield in stark relief. Reyes led the charge, his enhanced strength and speed making him a formidable force. He vaulted over a barricade, using his momentum to take down 2 guards in quick succession. Around him, his team, a mix of humans and Daxamites, fought with a synergy that spoke to their shared training and purpose. They pushed forward, meter by hard-won meter, against increasingly desperate resistance. Inside the base, Faye's stealth team moved like shadows. Their objective, the command center. As they navigated the winding corridors, Faye's keen senses picked up snippets of panicked communication. "They're here! How did they find us?" A voice echoed from around a corner. Faye signaled her team to halt, then peered around the edge. A group of Suliban sympathizers huddled around a communications terminal. Among them, she recognized Vex, his face contorted with rage. "It doesn't matter how they found us," Vex snarled. "Accelerate the timeline. Begin the process now." Faye's blood ran cold. Whatever they had planned for the hybrid children, it was happening now. She tapped her comlink, sending a coded burst of data to Reyes and Dr. Lyra back at the Citadel. Outside, Reyes received Faye's message just as his team encountered heavy resistance at a fortified checkpoint. He ducked behind cover as energy blasts scorched the air around him. "Dr. Lyra," he called into his comlink, "what's the situation with the hybrids?" Dr. Lyra's voice came through, tense with concern. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the nursery. They've started some kind of process. It's altering the children's genetic structure." Reyes gritted his teeth. "We need to push through, now." He turned to his team. "Everyone, give it everything you've got. Those kids are counting on us." With restored dedication, Reyes led a charge that broke through the enemy lines. They surged forward, fighting their way deeper into the base. Above, General Astra's squadrons engaged Suliban's ships attempting to provide reinforcements. The sky lit up with explosions, a deadly light show that illuminated the battlefield below. In the command center, Faye's team struck. They burst in, catching Vex and his lieutenants off guard. In the ensuing firefight, Faye managed to reach the main console. Her fingers flew over the controls, disrupting communications and sabotaging key systems. "No!" Vex roared, lunging at her. Faye spun, narrowly avoiding his grasp. They grappled, Vex's strength enhanced by Suliban experimentation. But Faye's training and natural agility gave her an edge. She broke free, delivering a series of swift strikes that sent Vex staggering back. As Faye's team secured the command center, Reyes and his assault force finally breached the inner sanctum. They fought their way to the nursery control room, where they found Vex waiting. "You're too late," Vex sneered, his body crackling with unnatural energy. "The future belongs to us." Reyes stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "The future belongs to those who fight for it," he said, then launched himself at Vex. Their battle was fierce, a blur of enhanced strength and combat techniques. Vex's Suliban-granted abilities made him a formidable opponent, but Reyes's unique blend of human ingenuity and Daxamite power ultimately proved superior. With a final decisive blow, Reyes sent Vex crashing into the control panel. Sparks flew as the Suliban sympathizer slumped to the ground, defeated. Breathing heavily, Reyes turned his attention to the nursery systems. "Dr. Lyra," he called, "I need your help. We have to stabilize the hybrids." As Dr. Lyra guided him through the process remotely, Reyes worked feverishly to reverse the genetic alterations. Minutes stretched like hours as he raced against time. Finally, the alarm klaxons fell silent. The pulsing energy signatures stabilized. Reyes looked up at the rows of incubation pods, each holding a tiny, precious life. They were safe. As the task force secured the base and rounded up the remaining Suliban sympathizers, Reyes found Faye in the aftermath of the battle. Without a word, they embraced, the shared danger and triumph of the night drawing them closer. But even as they savored this victory, both knew that greater challenges lay ahead. The conspiracy had been vast, its tendrils reaching into the highest levels of Daxamite society. And beyond their world, the stars held both promise and threat. Reyes gazed out at the horizon, where the first light of dawn was breaking. Whatever came next, he knew they would face it together, as partners, as leaders, and as pioneers of a new era in human Daxamite relations. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Reyes and Faye stood together, the weight of their recent victory settling upon them. The battle against Vex and the Suliban sympathizers had been won, but both knew it was only the beginning of a new chapter in human Daxamite relations. In the days that followed, their lives transformed rapidly. High Counselor Zara, recognizing the pivotal role Reyes and Faye had played in the operation, made a bold announcement that would reshape the political landscape of both their worlds. "We are entering a new era of cooperation," Zara declared in a planet-wide broadcast. "To solidify our commitment to this partnership, we are establishing a permanent human embassy on Daxam. And to lead this initiative, I am appointing Commander William Reyes as our chief liaison." The news hit Reyes like a shockwave. He found himself thrust into a role that required him to balance his military duties with newfound diplomatic responsibilities. The transition was far from smooth as he navigated the complex web of interspecies politics. One morning, Reyes stood before a mirror in his new quarters, adjusting the formal attire that felt so foreign compared to his usual combat gear. A chime at the door broke his concentration. "Enter," he called out. Faye stepped in, her eyes taking in his appearance with a mixture of amusement and admiration. "Look at you, all dressed up. Ready for your meeting with the trade minister?" Reyes sighed, tugging at his collar. As ready as I'll ever be. I never thought I'd miss the simplicity of a firefight. Faye approached, gently adjusting his outfit. You're doing great, Will. This is just another kind of battle. Their eyes met, and for a moment the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. But before either could address it, Reyes's comm link chirped urgently. Commander, Dr. Lyra's voice came through. We need you at the Genesis facility immediately. There's been a development with the hybrid children. Reyes and Faye exchanged concerned glances. On our way, Reyes responded, already moving toward the door. They arrived at the facility to find it buzzing with activity. Dr. Lyra met them at the entrance, her face a mix of excitement and concern. What's happening? Reyes asked as they hurried through the corridors. The hybrids, Dr. Lyra explained. They've reached a developmental milestone equivalent to human adolescence in just a few months. They entered the observation room, and Reyes's jaw dropped. Through the viewing window, he saw a group of young individuals, appearing to be in their early teens, engaged in various activities. Some were lifting objects that would challenge even adult Daxamites, while others manipulated complex holographic interfaces with ease. Incredible, Faye breathed, watching a young hybrid heal a cut on her arm in a matter of seconds. Dr. Lyra nodded. Their abilities are beyond anything we anticipated. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, and a natural affinity for both human and Daxamite technologies. We've had to rapidly develop new training programs to help them control these talents. As Reyes watched the hybrids, he felt a strange sensation in his mind, a faint whisper of thoughts and emotions not his own. He blinked, trying to focus. Are you all right? Faye asked, noticing his discomfort. Before Reyes could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. General Astra's holographic image appeared in the center of the room. Commander, we've detected increased Suliban activity in nearby systems, Astra reported. I'm launching preemptive strikes against their outpost. Your input on our new joint strategies would be invaluable. Reyes nodded, his mind already shifting to military mode. I'll join you in the war room shortly, General. As the hologram faded, Reyes turned to Faye and Dr. Lyra. I have to go. Keep me updated on the hybrid's progress. Faye caught his arm as he moved to leave. Will, be careful out there. These strikes, they're going to escalate tensions in the sector. Reyes squeezed her hand reassuringly. I know, but we can't let the Suliban threat grow unchecked. We'll deal with the consequences as they come. As he hurried to the war room, Reyes couldn't shake the strange sensation he had experienced earlier. Something was changing within him, a result of his prolonged exposure to Daxamite biology. New abilities were emerging, abilities that both thrilled and unsettled him. In the war room, Reyes found himself seamlessly integrating human tactical knowledge with Daxamite military strategy. The resulting operations proved highly successful, pushing the Suliban threat further from Daxamite space. But as reports of their victories spread, Reyes realized they had caught the attention of powers beyond their immediate conflict. A message from High Counselor Zara confirmed his suspicions. Commander, Zara's holographic form addressed him. A delegation from the Galactic Council is en route to Daxam. They wish to assess our situation. Reyes understood the implications immediately. The rapid advancements in human Daxamite integration, combined with their military successes, had put them in the galactic spotlight. When do they arrive? He asked, his mind already racing with preparations. Within the week, Zara replied. We need to present a united front, Reyes. The future of Operation Genesis depends on it. As the communication ended, Reyes felt the weight of his responsibilities bearing down on him. He was a soldier thrust into the role of diplomat, navigating interspecies relations on a galactic scale. And now, with his own body undergoing mysterious changes, he faced challenges on a personal level as well. Reyes gazed out at the Daxamite skyline, its alien beauty now as familiar to him as Earth's. He knew that the decisions he would make in the coming days would shape not only his own future, but the future of both human and Daxamite civilizations. The next phase of Operation Genesis loomed on the horizon, promising new possibilities and unforeseen complications. With a deep breath, Reyes straightened his shoulders and turned back to his duties. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them head-on for the sake of both his worlds. Reyes's days became a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, military strategy sessions, and oversight of Operation Genesis. As he worked tirelessly to balance the needs of both humans and Daxamites, a new proposal from the High Council caught him off guard. High Counselor Zara's holographic image flickered before him in his private office. Commander Reyes, we believe it's time to initiate a new phase of Operation Genesis. Our scientists suggest that direct genetic transfers between you and selected Daxamite females could yield significant advancements in our integration efforts. Reyes felt his pulse quicken. Direct genetic transfers? You mean? Zara nodded, her expression a mixture of purpose and understanding. Yes, Commander. We're asking you to participate in a more intimate form of genetic exchange. The potential benefits for both our species are immense. For days, Reyes grappled with the decision. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, each option carrying profound implications. Finally, after careful consideration and lengthy discussions with Dr. Lyra, he agreed to participate. The news of his decision spread quickly, and Reyes found himself facing Faye in his quarters. Her eyes betrayed a storm of emotions. I understand why you're doing this, Faye said, her voice tight. But it doesn't make it any easier. Reyes reached out to her, but she stepped back. Faye, Don't, she cut him off. I know it's necessary. I know it's for the greater good. But I need time, Will. Time to process this. As Faye left, Reyes felt the gulf widening between them, a casualty of the choices thrust upon him by his unique position. The new phase of Operation Genesis began under Dr. Lyra's meticulous supervision. A group of carefully selected Daxamite females volunteered for the program, each undergoing rigorous physical and psychological evaluations. Reyes entered the sterile medical chamber, his heart racing. Dr. Lyra's calm voice guided him through the procedure. Remember, Commander, this is a controlled process. The genetic transfer will be facilitated through a specialized biointerface. As the first session began, Reyes felt a strange tingling sensation coursing through his body. The Daxamite volunteer, a serene-faced woman named Kira, lay on an adjacent bed, connected to him through a web of glowing tendrils. Hours passed, feeling like mere moments. When the process concluded, Reyes opened his eyes to see Kira looking at him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. Thank you, Commander, she said softly. I feel different, stronger. Over the following weeks, Reyes participated in multiple sessions with different volunteers. Each interaction left him drained, yet oddly invigorated. He found himself forming unexpected emotional connections with some of the Daxamite females, their shared experiences creating a bond that transcended mere physical intimacy. Meanwhile, Dr. Lyra's excitement grew with each passing day. The genetic integration is progressing at an unprecedented rate, she reported during a briefing. The embryos are displaying a wider range of traits than we ever anticipated. If this continues, we may be looking at a quantum leap in human Daxamite evolution. As word of the program's success spread, more Daxamites volunteered, forcing Reyes and Dr. Lyra to expand their operations. The increased scale brought new logistical challenges, stretching resources and personnel to their limits. Amidst the frenzy of the expanding program, Reyes received an urgent summons from General Astra. He arrived at the training facility to find the general observing a group of hybrid children, now resembling human teenagers, as they navigated a complex obstacle course. Watch this, Astra said, gesturing to a young hybrid girl. The girl approached a sealed Daxamite security door. She placed her hand on the control panel, and to Reyes's amazement, the intricate locking mechanism responded instantly, far more quickly than it would for a full-blooded Daxamite. They're interfacing with our technology on an unprecedented level, Astra explained. And it's not just this. Their physical abilities are off the charts. We need to harness this potential, Reyes. I'm initiating a specialized training program for defensive purposes. Before Reyes could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. A holographic display materialized, showing a Galactic Council ship entering Daxamite space. Counselor Zara warned me about this, Reyes muttered. They're here to review Operation Genesis. As the Galactic Council observers arrived, tension permeated every level of the program. Reyes found himself under constant scrutiny, every decision and action analyzed and questioned. During a particularly grueling session with the council representatives, Reyes received an urgent communication from Earth. The feed crackled to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Chen, Earth's military liaison. "Commander Reyes," Chen's voice was clipped, "we've received reports of your expanded role in Operation Genesis. The Joint Chiefs are concerned about the potential power imbalance this creates. We're demanding greater involvement and access to Daxamite biotechnology." Reyes felt the pressure mounting from all sides. As he prepared to respond, he caught sight of Faye entering the room, her expression determined. She stepped forward, addressing both Reyes and the holographic image of Admiral Chen. "Gentlemen," Faye began, her diplomatic skills coming to the fore, "I believe I have a solution that might satisfy all parties involved." As Faye outlined her proposal for a joint Earth Daxamite research initiative, Reyes marveled at her ability to navigate the complex interspecies dynamics. Her plan offered a path forward, easing tensions while maintaining crucial safeguards. With the immediate diplomatic crisis averted, Reyes turned his attention back to the growing Suliban threat. He and General Astra huddled over tactical displays, formulating strategies that would leverage the unique abilities of their hybrid forces. Their planning session was interrupted by Dr. Lyra bursting into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "Commander, General, you need to see this immediately." They followed her to the hybrid children's quarters, where a group of young hybrids stood in a circle, their eyes closed in concentration. "What's happening?" Reyes asked, his voice hushed. Dr. Lyra's voice brimmed with impossibly strong awe. "They've manifested a new ability. They can detect and communicate with Suliban infiltrators across vast distances, and right now they're uncovering a deep-cover Suliban spy network operating within both our territories." Reyes and Astra exchanged glances, the implications of this development sinking in. As they began formulating a plan to neutralize this hidden threat, Reyes felt a familiar tension building in his chest. The next phase of their struggle against the Suliban was about to begin, and it would test the full potential of everything they had built through Operation Genesis. Genesis. As the hybrid children continued to uncover the extent of the Suliban spy network, Reyes felt a shift in the air. The looming threat of a massive Suliban invasion cast a shadow over the Daxamite homeworld, plunging it into a state of high alert. Reyes strode purposefully through the corridors of the Daxamite military headquarters, his mind racing with strategies and contingencies. He entered the war room, where General Astra stood before a holographic display of the planet's defense systems. "Commander," Astra greeted him, her eyes reflecting the gravity of their situation. "The Suliban fleet has been detected at the edge of our solar system. We need to accelerate our preparations." Reyes nodded, stepping up to the display. "Agreed. Let's review our current defenses and identify any weak points." For hours they pored over tactical data, integrating human military tactics with advanced Daxamite biotechnology. Reyes's unique perspective proved invaluable, his mind seamlessly blending strategies from both worlds. As they worked, Dr. Lyra burst into the room, her eyes alight with excitement. "Commander, General, I have news that could change everything." She quickly briefed them on her latest breakthrough. The direct genetic transfers between Reyes and the Daxamite females had produced a new strain of hybrid embryos with even more advanced capabilities. "These new hybrids show signs of rapid maturation and heightened telepathic abilities," Dr. Lyra explained. "If we can accelerate their development, they could provide a crucial advantage in the coming conflict." Reyes exchanged a glance with General Astra. The potential was clear, but so were the risks. "How quickly can we implement this?" he asked. "With High Counselor Zara's authorization, we could begin immediately," Dr. Lyra replied. Reyes nodded. "Make it happen. I'll speak with Zara." Within hours, High Counselor Zara had approved an expansion of the Intimate Genetic Transfer Program. More Daxamite females stepped forward, volunteering to participate in what they saw as their duty to protect their world. Reyes found himself committing to an intensive schedule of genetic transfer sessions. Each day became a blur of military strategy meetings and medical procedures. The physical and emotional toll began to weigh on him, but he pushed forward, driven by the urgency of their situation. One evening, as Reyes prepared for another transfer session, Faye entered his quarters. Her eyes were filled with concern. "Will, you need to rest," she said softly. "You're pushing yourself too hard." Reyes sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I can't stop, Faye. Every successful transfer could mean another defender for this planet." Faye stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "I understand. Just don't lose yourself in all of this." As Reyes continued his grueling schedule, the first generation of hybrid children, now equivalent to human young adults, volunteered en masse to join the planet's defense forces. Their unique abilities proved invaluable in fortifying the planet's defenses. Reyes watched with pride as these young hybrids integrated seamlessly into key positions within the military structure. Their ability to detect Suliban infiltrators across vast distances and their enhanced control over Daxamite biotechnology allowed for the creation of a multi-layered defense system unlike anything seen before. As preparations intensified, the Galactic Council observers began to reassess their stance on Operation Genesis. The potential of this human Daxamite alliance to stand against a major interstellar threat became increasingly apparent. Faye seized this opportunity, leveraging her diplomatic skills to negotiate for additional support from Earth. Within days, a contingent of human soldiers and advanced weaponry arrived on the Daxamite homeworld, further strengthening the planet's defenses. Amidst the flurry of activity, a group of Daxamite scientists approached Reyes with a radical proposal. They suggested creating a planet-wide bioshield by synchronizing the telepathic abilities of the hybrid children with the Daxamite's organic technology. "Commander," the lead scientist explained, her eyes gleaming with excitement, "if successful, this bioshield could provide an unprecedented level of protection against the Suliban invasion." Reyes listened intently, his mind already calculating the potential benefits and risks. "What do you need to make this happen?" The scientist hesitated before responding. "We need a focal point, someone whose physiology bridges human, Daxamite, and hybrid biology. Someone like you, Commander." Reyes felt the weight of their expectant gazes. He knew the risks involved in pushing his already altered physiology further, but the potential benefits were too great to ignore. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "What's the next step?" The preparation for the bioshield procedure required Reyes to undergo an intense series of genetic enhancement sessions. Each day, he pushed his body to its limits, feeling the changes ripple through him with increasing intensity. As the Suliban fleet entered the outer reaches of the Daxamite solar system, final preparations were made. The hybrid defense forces took up their positions, the newly arrived human contingent integrated with the Daxamite military, and the planet-wide bioshield project entered its final stages. Reyes stood in the central chamber of the planetary defense system, his body humming with energy from the genetic enhancements. As he prepared to link with the system, he caught sight of Faye watching from the observation deck. Their eyes met, conveying a depth of emotion words couldn't express. Taking a deep breath, Reyes placed his hands on the interface panels. Energy surged through him as he connected with the planet's defenses, feeling the presence of every hybrid, every soldier, every piece of technology. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. On the massive view screen, the first wave of the Suliban invasion force appeared in the skies above the Daxamite homeworld. Reyes gritted his teeth, channeling his focus into the planetary defense system. As the Suliban ships descended, he felt the combined strength of two worlds coursing through him, ready to face the challenge that would determine the fate of both human and Daxamite civilizations. Civilization. As the Suliban ships breached the atmosphere, Reyes felt a surge of energy course through his body. The moment had come. "Initiating bioshield," he announced, his voice steady despite the tension. The room hummed with power as Reyes channeled the combined energies of human, Daxamite, and hybrid biology. A shimmering dome of energy blossomed from the central chamber, rapidly expanding outward. Within seconds, it enveloped the entire planet, creating a translucent barrier between the Daxamite homeworld and the encroaching Suliban fleet. The invading ships collided with the shield, their weapons fire dissipating harmlessly against its surface. On the view screens, the Suliban commanders visibly recoiled, clearly caught off guard by this unexpected defense. Dr. Lyra's eyes darted between Rhea's and her monitoring equipment. "Bioshield stable, but the strain on your system is significant, Commander," she reported, concern etching her features. Reyes gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead as he maintained the connection. "I can handle it," he assured her, though his body trembled with the effort. General Astra wasted no time capitalizing on the Suliban's confusion. "All squadrons, launch now," she commanded, her voice ringing through the command center. Sleek fighters, piloted by human Daxamite hybrids, streamed from hidden hangars across the planet's surface. These enhanced soldiers moved with preternatural grace, their ships responding to their thoughts as much as their physical inputs. The hybrid squadrons tore through the disorganized Suliban formations, their unprecedented coordination allowing them to anticipate and counter every enemy maneuver. Explosions blossomed in the sky as Suliban ships fell to the precise, devastating attacks. In the diplomatic wing, Faye stood before a hastily assembled group of alien observers, her voice passionate as she pleaded their case. "The Suliban threat extends beyond our worlds," she argued, gesturing to the battle raging outside. "Their unchecked aggression will destabilize the entire sector. We need your help to end this conflict before it engulfs us all." As Faye worked to secure allies, the tide of battle shifted. A massive Suliban warship, easily identified as the flagship, moved into position. Energy built along its hull, coalescing into a sickly green beam that lanced out towards the planet. The bioshield held, but Reyes screamed in agony as the attack slammed into it. Throughout the facility, hybrid children cried out in pain, their mental link to the shield transmitting the assault directly into their minds. "Genetic disruptor!" Dr. Lyra shouted, her fingers flying across her console. "It's targeting the bonds between human and Daxamite DNA." Reyes struggled to maintain his focus, but he could feel his grip on the shield weakening. "We need a solution," he gasped, his vision blurring. Dr. Lyra's mind raced, considering and discarding options in rapid succession. Finally, she turned to Reyes, her expression grim. "I have a way to stabilize the shield, but it's risky. It will require further altering your genetic structure, and I can't predict the long-term effects." Reyes nodded without hesitation. "Do it," he ordered. As Dr. Lyra prepared the procedure, High Counselor Zara entered the chamber, her face set in determined lines. "Activate the ancestral vault," she commanded, her voice brooking no argument. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. The ancestral vault, a repository of ancient and incredibly powerful Daxamite technology, had been sealed for generations, deemed too dangerous to use. "Are you certain, High Counselor?" General Astra asked, her eyes wide. Zara nodded solemnly. "We've seen what humans and Daxamites can accomplish together. It's time to trust in that alliance fully." As the vault's defenses powered down, Dr. Lyra began her work on Reyes. Pain lanced through his body as his very genetic code was rewritten, but he refused to let go of the shield. Outside, the battle raged on. The elite hybrid unit, led by the now adult first generation of Operation Genesis, executed a daring assault on the Suliban flagship. Their enhanced abilities allowed them to bypass the ship's formidable defenses, fighting their way to the command center. In a fierce close-quarters battle, they confronted Supreme Overlord Kraz himself. The Suliban leader fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, but he was no match for the perfectly coordinated hybrid team. Within minutes, Kraz was subdued and in custody, his capture sending shockwaves through the Suliban fleet. As the Suliban forces fell into disarray, Faye's diplomatic efforts bore fruit. A coalition of neutral species, impressed by the human Daxamite alliance and alarmed by the Suliban's aggression, committed their forces to the defense of the Daxamite homeworld. Dr. Lyra completed her procedure on Reyes just as reinforcements arrived. With a surge of renewed strength, Reyes poured his energy into the bioshield. The shimmering barrier solidified, becoming utterly impenetrable to Suliban attacks. The combined forces of the human Daxamite alliance and their new allies launched a final devastating assault on the remaining Suliban ships. Caught between the planet's now impregnable defenses and the incoming reinforcements, the invaders had no choice but to flee. As the last Suliban ship vanished into hyperspace, cheers erupted throughout the command center. The Daxamite homeworld was safe, and the human-Daxamite alliance had proven its worth beyond any shadow of doubt. Reyes, his connection to the planetary defense system finally severed, collapsed into a waiting medical pod. As the adrenaline of battle faded, he became acutely aware of the changes wrought in his body. He felt simultaneously more and less human, his very identity now as much of a hybrid as the children of Operation Genesis. Faye rushed to his side, her eyes brimming with a mixture of joy and concern. As she took his hand, Reyes managed a weak smile. "We did it," he whispered. "Yes, we did," Faye replied, squeezing his hand gently. "Rest now. There's still much work to be done." Indeed, even as celebrations began across the planet, new challenges loomed on the horizon. The extensive use of genetic modification and ancient Daxamite technologies raised as many questions as it answered. And on the view screen, a transmission flickered to life, announcing the imminent arrival of a high-ranking delegation from Earth. The victory was secure, but the future remained uncertain. As Reyes drifted into a healing sleep, he knew that the next phase of their journey was just beginning. The victory against the Suliban had been hard-won, but for Reyes, a new chapter was just unfolding. As he regained consciousness in the medical pod, Reyes became acutely aware of the changes in his body. His senses felt sharper, his mind clearer, yet there was an underlying instability that he couldn't quite place. Dr. Lyra approached, her face a mixture of concern and fascination. "Commander," she began, her voice soft but urgent, "your genetic structure has undergone significant alterations. The procedure we performed to stabilize the bioshield has, well, it's made you unique." Reyes sat up slowly, feeling the pull of unfamiliar muscles. "Unique how, Doctor?" Dr. Lyra activated a holographic display, showing a complex DNA helix. "Your genetic code is now a perfect blend of human and Daxamite. You're the first of your kind, a true hybrid. But this new state requires careful management." She explained the need for regular genetic stabilization sessions, a process that would involve intimate contact with compatible Daxamite partners. Reyes listened, his mind racing with the implications. Before he could fully process this information, High Counselor Zara entered the room, her presence commanding attention. "Commander Reyes," she addressed him formally, "your actions have saved our world and perhaps changed the course of our species' evolution. The High Council has made a decision." Zara's eyes met Reyes's, conveying the weight of her next words. "We are granting you the status of genetic prime. You will be central to the ongoing development of our society." Reyes's new role quickly became all-encompassing. The Interspecies Genetic Harmony Center was established, a gleaming facility dedicated to fostering genetic exchange between humans and Daxamites. Reyes found himself at the heart of this program, overseeing operations and participating in carefully monitored intimate encounters. Months passed, and the fruits of their labor began to show. A new generation of human Daxamite hybrids emerged, each child a testament to the success of Operation Genesis. Reyes watched with a mixture of pride and wonder as these children grew, their unique abilities manifesting in ways that surpassed even the most optimistic predictions. One afternoon, as Reyes observed a group of hybrid teenagers effortlessly manipulating complex Daxamite biotechnology, Faye approached him. Her presence was a welcome respite from the clinical nature of his daily routine. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" she remarked, her eyes reflecting the same awe he felt. Reyes nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come." Faye's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "I've just returned from Earth," she said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "The migration agreement has been finalized. We're about to enter a new era of exchange between our worlds." As they discussed the implications of this agreement, Reyes felt a familiar twinge in his body, a signal that another stabilization session was due. He saw the understanding in Faye's eyes, a testament to the depth of their relationship that had evolved beyond physical boundaries. "Go," she said softly. "I'll be here when you're done." Reyes made his way to the private chamber reserved for his sessions. A young Daxamite woman waited for him, her nervousness evident in her posture. As they began the intimate process of genetic transfer, Reyes found his thoughts drifting to the future they were building. A future where the lines between human and Daxamite blurred into something entirely new. Years passed, and the impact of Operation Genesis became increasingly apparent. The first joint human Daxamite deep space colonies were established, led by the now adult hybrid children of the program. Reyes, though physically unchanged due to his unique biology, felt the weight of time in his accumulated experiences. On the 10th anniversary of the Suliban invasion, a grand ceremony was held at the Interspecies Genetic Harmony Center. Representatives from Earth and the Daxamite homeworld gathered to celebrate their unprecedented alliance. Reyes stood at the center of it all, his role as genetic prime now a symbol of the union between their species. As he prepared to participate in a public genetic transfer ceremony, a ritual that had become a cornerstone of their new shared culture, Reyes caught sight of Faye in the audience. Their eyes met, and in that moment, he saw reflected in her gaze the entirety of their journey together. The ceremony began, Reyes taking his place on the raised platform. As he initiated the transfer process with a selected Daxamite partner, he felt the familiar surge of energy coursing through his body. But this time, something was different. The connection seemed to expand, reaching beyond the confines of the room. Reyes gasped as his consciousness briefly touched the minds of every hybrid on the planet, a fleeting moment of complete unity. As the connection faded, he understood with sudden clarity that this was more than just a ceremony. It was the beginning of the next phase in their shared evolution. As the event concluded, Reyes stepped down from the platform, his mind buzzing with the implications of what he had experienced. Faye was there to meet him, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "What happened up there?" she asked quietly, guiding him away from the crowds. Reyes took a deep breath, trying to find the words to explain. "I think," he began slowly, "we've only scratched the surface of what's possible." Faye's eyes widened with understanding. "You mean?" "Yes." Reyes nodded, his gaze drifting to the star-filled sky visible through the center's dome. "Our journey among the stars is just beginning."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.